Hey everyone, welcome back to MLWorks. In this video, we'll be understanding how to get started with LangGraph by building a chatbot. And as we move through this tutorial, we'll be understanding how to add tools to the bot and how to add memory to the bot and then how to add human in the loop as part of the bot. Okay, now we'll be segregating this tutorial into two parts. First is where we build a simple bot with LLM and then how we add a tool to it. Then in the second part of the tutorial, which is LangGraph 2, where we'll be discussing about how to add a memory to the bot such that we can retrieve the previous conversation, and then we'll add a human in the loop by ensuring if the LLM or the tool is not able to answer a specific question or a task, you get the input from the human. So with that, let's get started with LangGraph 1 tutorial, where we'll be building a bot with LLM and adding a tool to it. So the first part is just installing the packages, which is just to pip install LangGraph, and this will install your package into your environment. And since we are talking about LangGraph, we want to talk about graph, which is you have nodes and edges. So nodes are nothing but where you do some action and change the state of the graph, and edges is where you will decide to which node you want to move to next. So with that, what we'll do is we'll create a state graph, and for that we'll need a bunch of modules from LangGraph and we'll import them. So these are the different modules that we want to import. So as I said, we have state graph, which is nothing but your structure to the bot, which is nothing but represents your chatbot. It will include nodes and edges and everything else. Now, this is where you create a state, which is nothing but your structure of your chatbot, which will contain messages, and you keep the conversation that is happening between you and the user and the chatbot, or in this case LLM, gets added here. So we create a class and we inherit type dect, and then we add messages, and then we created this specific attribute called messages, which is nothing but a list of messages. And then we create our graph builder, which is nothing but your structure of the chatbot. Now every time each node takes in the state of your graph, and the node will perform certain action and it will change the state of your graph. Now as part of this, when this change is happening, it has to keep track of all the messages. That's why we have this add message function. Now we have created the state of the chatbot. Now we want to add what I would call it as nodes to this chatbot, or the layer of whatever you're trying to build, right? The structure you want to build on top of it. So before we do that, we'll be using the LLM, which is Gemini 2.0 Flash, and you can get the API key from the Google AI Studio, and we'll be loading that as part of your env file, and it is stored here somewhere, and I'm loading it here, and I'm just passing it as part of this init chat model, and that is my LLM. So for this tutorial, my LLM is Gemini 2.0 Flash, and I'm also pulling the API key here, and you have to ensure that it is part of your runtime environment. So let us import this. Now we have created a structure of the chatbot. We want to add node to it. A node is nothing but, in this case, we want to add first LLM. So this is how you declare a function which takes the current state of your graph, and then whatever the state is present, you put the get the message from it, and that will be your input that you are sending to the LLM. So this is how you get the response, and this is your chatbot function. So you create a node on top of graph builder, which we created earlier. Use the help of dot add node. You give the name of the node as chatbot, and you call the function chatbot. So this is done. Now I already mentioned what is the add messages. It keeps adding messages, the response that you get from the LLM and the user input that you send. So all chatbots should have a start and end point, because it cannot run, because the whole application won't run if you don't have start and end point. So what you do is, once you create a chatbot here node. Okay, once the node is created, then only you can connect an edge from the start. This is something called as a starting point of your when you are running the chatbot, right? This is the starting point, and you give start. This is a function that comes from here. If you see here, dot graph, we have start and end. So what we do is we create an edge, and this will be start, and we connect it to the chatbot, which is nothing but your function here. And once this is created, this edge is created. Okay, let me run this. We want to also put an endpoint to this chatbot. So what we do is we create another edge where you connect from chatbot to end. Okay, this will complete the kind of an execution, complete an chat execution. Okay, chat will be completed once you get the response from the LLM. So till now we just kind of created this individual isolated parts. Okay, entry point, and exit point, and then you have nodes. Okay, now once you do compilation of this graph builder, you will try to get the blueprint of it. You will get the blueprint of the graph. Okay, so we built our graph, and let us visualize it here. So we have starting point, whatever the input that is there, that comes to the chatbot, and then it gets you the response, and it completes the conversation. Okay, there is no loop back to what the LLM. Okay, so once you get the response from LLM, then it's done. Okay, now let us understand this function clearly, because this is quite an important aspect of building the chatbot. So what we do is we create a function which is stream graph updates. As the conversation is happening, you want to keep track of everything. So what we do is we take in the user input, and that is passed to the graph builder, which is nothing but simple graph here. This is the graph that we created, and we pass this. This is the format that you have to pass it in. Okay, this is how you pass your input message, and it will give you the response, and you are iterating through the response, and you can view that with the help of value messages. Whatever the last response that you got, you can print it like this. Okay, so this is a function call that is being made to the graph. Okay, now you want to make, since it's a chatbot, you want to iteratively call the LLM, get the input from the user, call the LLM, get the input from the user. This is how the chatbot works. Okay, so what you do is you write this while true, and in the try statement, what you do is you get the input from the user and lower it. Okay, just turn it into lowercase, and see if the input from the user is quit, exit, or queue. If the user is passing these three inputs, then it will come out of the chatbot and it will say goodbye. Otherwise, what will happen is it will go to the stream graph updates and make a call to the graph that we created, and make the LLM call if required, or if you have a tool, it will make a tool calling also, if based on the type of message you are sending. So this is where we make the call and get the response from LLM, and when you are sending a message. But what happens, right, when you are just passing an empty string, okay, it will go to the exception scenario where it will give you the default question that you are passing. The LLM will answer to that, and then it will break. So that's the whole point here. So yeah, I made the call. Now it is the user, it is asking something, input from the user. I'm saying explain open AI in one sentence. Okay, so that is done. Now it will go, and again, now it is asking again. If you see, I got the response, then again it is asking. Now let me just quit here. Okay, I'm just passing q, which is equal to this one, and then let's wait here just a minute. So I'm passing it here. Let me point it. Yeah, so it said goodbye. So when I said the question, the question which I sent, explain OpenAI in one sentence, it is saying this specific, it is gave this specific response. Okay, so this is which is related to what is OpenAI is all about in one sentence. Now we are done with simple chatbot with LLM. What we are doing is we are running it iteratively, making the function call to this one, and we keep passing the user input, and we keep getting the response. And once you say quit, exit, or queue, it will exit the chatbot session. That's it. Now we know that LLMs are trained on a specific data set and it cannot have the latest data. Okay, so which is happening in the world, all the news that is coming up. Okay, so what you can do is you can add a tool to your chatbot, and if your model is not able to answer your query, then you will go to the tool, which is a search engine in this case, and you will get the response from there. Okay, so for this, what we'll do is we'll be installing this package, which is LangChain Tavili, okay, which is a search engine. Okay, and we'll be installing that, and then we'll be getting an open API key from their website and store it as part of the env file and pull it here as we did for Gemini API key. So let me run this. So we have our API key imported for the search engine. Now we have installed this package right earlier. We are importing that package and getting that search module. And what we want to do is whenever a query is sent to this search tool, it has to bring up the first result, only one result, because we don't want more than one result, because there is also a limitation on the search engine number of queries that you can make. Okay, so this is our tool, and now what we do is we pass it to a list and we call it tools. Now if you want to just test out your tool, you can do tool.invoke and send some search query and it will give you the response. In this case, what's a node in LangGraph, and it is able to get the response and the score and everything, and it took around 1.56 seconds. So in LangGraph, nodes are typically JavaScript or TypeScript functions and some details. So this is how we have tool got created. Now since we are building a chatbot with tool, so we want to bind the tool to the LLM. Okay, so with the help of LLM.bind tools, we pass the tool integrated with the LLM and we call it LLM with tools. Then we create again a chatbot, a function which is chatbot with tools, pass in the current state of your chatbot, and you want to make a whatever the state contains the messages, we take that and make an invocation call to the specific object, which is LLM with tools. Now similar to what we have seen earlier, okay, we want to add this function as a node to the graph. So what we do is dot add node, the name of the node is chatbot with tools, and then this is the function call we want to make. So we import this, that's it. Okay, now we have created a tool and we have created a bot, okay, with the ability to call a tool. Now we also want the tool to be part of your graph, okay, because for that we want to create a tool node. So we create this specific class where we have this init and call method which iterates over all the tools that you are part of your chatbot. This is what is happening here. Okay, and then how to handle the messages that is passed to the tool. Okay, so it will look into the input query, okay, from the chatbot, not the chatbot, from whatever the input query that is sent by the user. It will take the latest message, okay, if it is present. If it is not present, it will throw an error. It will take the latest message and it will see what was the tool call needs to be done. Okay, either it is a tool call for the search engine, or if you have another tool, for example, you want to connect to the Slack, which is another tool that got integrated with your chatbot. Okay, so we want to iterate through that tool call and we want to understand, get the name, and then we make a invocation, and then we get the response from the tool itself, and then we pass the response as part of the output. Okay, and tool call here, it represents the argument that we want to pass it to your this tools that we have here, right? For example, what I mean is you have this tool invoke, this is your tool argument. Okay, so that's what we do here. So let me run this. So this is the function. Okay, then what we do is we call the class name and then pass the tool. This is the tool node gets generated, and once the node is generated, we add it to the graph builder. Now this is two nodes are now present. One is chatbot node, then we have tool node. Now we want to add a conditional edge which will switch between either LLM or chatbot. So what we do is we create a function called as route tools. Basically you want to just understand one thing. Okay, if the message contains tool call, okay, which is this one, then the condition will be it has to go to the tool node. Okay, otherwise it has to end the conversation. That's it. This is the basic idea behind this function. Now we have graph builder. Then we had something called as add conditional edges, not a normal edge but a conditional edge, where we pass in this first chatbot. Okay, this is the condition. Root tools is the condition because this is where we have our if else. Okay, and then after that we want to do what we want to do is we want to tools and then end. Okay, so this is what the condition is. If it is in specific condition, then you want to go here, otherwise you want to end it. Okay, and we want to add this conditional edge also. This is we are adding the conditional edge and we are adding tools. So if you reach to the tools, then you want to next move to the chatbot. Okay, and if you are at the starting position, then you again have to move to the chatbot. Okay, so this is what these two edges represent. If you are making a tool calling, the next step would be to call the chatbot, and if you are at the starting point, so you have to go to the LLM, which is this chatbot with tools. So once you add to these two edges, then we compile the graph builder, okay, which is graph with tools. Now we'll be visualizing it here. So earlier we had simple chatbot here as represented, then we have chatbot with tools. And if you see here, this loop is happening in between tools and chatbot with tools. This is happening because if you see here, this edge that we created, tools to chatbot with tools, this is the loop that gets created because of this. Now, as mentioned earlier, this is the same function. Okay, this is the same input. If you have the same set of inputs, then you quit. Otherwise, you go and make the chatbot calls. And if it is containing tool calling, then it will make the call to the tools. So let me run it here again. So what is the stock price for Apple? Okay, so it will be what it has given us. Okay, it is looking, and yeah, so it went and it searched. It is the latest closing price of Apple. Now I don't want to use it, just I want to quit. So you want to understand this part, right? It did not go to the LLM because LLM doesn't know what is the live stock price of the specific stock, which is Apple. So it has to go to the web search. It has to go and understand what is the price of the specific stock, which is Apple in this case, and its stock price is $232.14. So if you see here, the query is Apple stock price. It kind of transformed your input. And then if you see here, this is financial analysis for Apple. It went to yahoo.com and then it got the price for the specific Apple stock. Now we are at the end of the first part of the video. Okay, now what we have done is we have a chatbot, we have our tool, but what will happen, right, if you want to understand the previous conversation and want to update something from there or get some detail from the previous conversation into our current conversation? So for that we need memory. Okay, so what we'll do in the next video is this will be the continuation of this specific tutorial. We'll add memory to the chatbot and we'll see if it is able to remember the previous conversation and respond properly. And we also add human in the loop and how we can interrupt the conversation between the bot and then between bot and the user and get input from the user, okay, and move on with the conversation. So thank you for watching. We'll connect in the next video. Bye.